Okay, welcome to Nevada Irrigation District Maintenance and Resource Management meeting of September 22nd, 2020 at 9 o'clock in the morning. Let's look, do we have any public comments for items that are not on the agenda today? Seeing none, we will move on to item number 1, approve the minutes of the August 25th, 2020 regular meeting.
I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine with them. I read through them. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any public comments on this?
Did make any typos?
No? Okay. Seeing none with that, we will close that item and move on to item number 2, district project submitted for inclusion in the updated Cosumnes American Bear River Yuba CABY Integrated Regional Water Management Plan.
Mouthful. Nathan.
Oh, Nathan?
Nathan can start off.
Where is Nathan? Oh,
she's up there. She's on the screen.
She's on the screen. Hi, Nathan.
Nathan, unmute yourself.
Nasa, can you unmute yourself? Try it again, Nasa.
Nasa, hit star 6.
Nasa, if you're on your phone, would you hit star 6?
I've been trying. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are.
There she is.
There you are. We got you.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning. So we've got the first. I'm trying to fix my audio. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So this morning, good morning, Director Heck. Good morning, Director Wilcox and committee. This first item is a staff report and an update regarding our CABY planning activities. As most of us have heard over the years, integrated regional water management was brought forward by the California Department of Water Resources back in 2002 with an intention of creating a collaborative tool to address water management solutions at a watershed scale. Stakeholder groups were formed that include federal, state, and local agencies, local nonprofit organizations, tribes, farm bureaus, water users. Since 2002, over $1.5 billion has been approved by voters through various bonds, and NID has been participating for many years in the CABY Integrated Regional Water Management Group. CABY stands for 4 different watershed areas, and these areas were defined by the state. It includes the Cosumnes, American, Bear, and Yuba River watersheds. That's the big picture. For the last 4 years, NID staff has been participating in the 3rd update of the CABY Integrated Regional Water Management Plan. So we are at a point now where we have a public review draft that has been made available at the CABY website, and this website is cabyregion.org. This public review draft includes all the revisions we've made in many meetings where we sit down and work through content, as well as updating a project list. So what I've brought before you here in this report is that as part of this updating process, I have worked with our different departments to pull together a list of projects that are associated with water resource planning, provision, system, condition, repair, upgrade needs, essentially anything that would be appropriate or relevant under this realm of water resources planning, which is basically most of what we do. That said, we are at a process now where the projects have been put together, and what I did was cull together in this memo all of the information that I provided to the group is in attachment 1. So what I've given to them, you've now had before you. And out of these 27 projects, only one project has been identified by the Regional Water Management Group, some of the members on this group. They have concerns, and they have requested that we remove the Centennial Water Supply Project. Out of the 140 or 150 projects on the list, this is the only project that has been identified. And I can back up one step. I understand this is really a swirling thing to try to understand, but the Regional Water Management Group is essentially the governing body of CABY. We are a member of that group, and the Regional Water Management Group has 8 members total, 4 water agencies and 4 non-water agencies. The 3 of the non-water agencies indicated they would like that project removed because they didn't think it met the goals and objectives of the Resource Management Plan, the CABY plan. I asserted that it does meet the objectives for long-term water resource planning and climate preparedness and a number of other issues. And I went through the, I believe it's 16-chapter document and pulled out sections and provided it to the group where I thought it was in alignment, and as well noted that our premise for collecting projects was to create the most inclusive project list that we could, and it's from that list that we would pull smaller groups of projects depending on a future funding opportunity. Being on the list essentially only gets a project in the door for consideration. It does not recommend it for funding for a specific grant opportunity or anything else. So I bring this to you for a little guidance and direction because there's a divergence that I see here in the process through CABY. The stakeholders have gathered, as I indicated, about 150 projects, 140 projects. Essentially, the project proponent was directed to identify how the project met the goals and objectives of the CABY plan. And then if that organization was going to adopt the plan when we finalize it in the next month or 2, that project would be on this broader CABY project list. Further project vetting would occur as a funding opportunity arises. So the group then would go through and cull out a suite of projects when future grant funds come available. So it felt really out of step to be told that the project doesn't get to go on the broader list, and it was not indicated how it was in conflict with the plan either. So at this time, I feel like we've got a large group of projects on our list. The projects, they reflect opportunities from my perspective to work on both the demand side and the water supply side. And they're intended to address both short-term critical needs as well as long-term needs. So I think at this time, you know, I'm asking for some direction on how you would like us to proceed.
So this is Greg, and I would just like to reiterate one other point on this particular process, is that Mason made the comment that within this larger project list, which is the IRWMP project list, which is a call for projects from all water districts and NGOs within the greater CABY stakeholder group, we have roughly 140 or 150 projects that different organizations culled from their organization list and said, you know what, it fits. We have a project that fits into this category within the CABY IRWIN plan that has been undergoing 4 or 5 years of revision collaboratively with multiple organizations and multiple stakeholders. NESA mentioned that at this stage of the project list, this only gets these suites of projects, and NID identified 27. We went through recreation, we went through engineering, we went through operations, we went to hydro. We identified multiple different projects that may, the key is may, someday in the future, if DWR gets funding, if IRWEPs get funding continuously into the future, there is a body of work that's sitting around and ready to be identified and brought forth to a funding grant process. That is when any project on that list would have an opportunity to raise through into a validated project opportunity that is defined within the IRWMP process through the Regional Water Management Group. And that's this 8-member body, 4 water utilities and 4 NGOs that would have the chance to cull projects together, bundle them into a grant opportunity, submit them to DWR, and then get funding. CABY's been successful in that over the past. I want to just bring your attention to the fact that this is simply, these 27 projects are putting these groups of projects into a bucket that eventually someday may or may not get called upon to be funded. I wanted to reiterate that to the members. Anything else, NESA, before maybe we open to questions from the committee?
I think the other thing I would like to note is that there was a general acceptance on face value of all of the projects that were being submitted. The projects, of course, reflected the people that were in the room, those 8 organizations and agencies, as well as others. We've gone out, and especially after the Jones fire, we reached out specifically to Sierra Streams Institute, Bear Yuba Land Trust, others where we knew we had very recent ecosystem or institutional impacts associated with wildfire, because we understand that there will continue to be a focus through granting programs on wildfire impacts, wildfire prevention. We wanted to make sure to include that. So again, proponents were asked to please submit projects, and it was taken on face value. And this project was really singled out, not based on what I had submitted, but on information that some of the Regional Water Management Group members had pulled either through prior experience or documents available through our website to discuss at greater detail. And that level of review or scrutiny wasn't extended to any of the other projects. So I think this is almost as much as it is a content-based consideration, it's a process-based consideration as well. The group essentially had indicated if a proponent can demonstrate where it meets the objectives of this document, it would be on. So I just wanted to point that out again.
So maybe with that, if the members of the committee have some questions, we can dialogue, and then we can open it up to the public if there's any questions. Ricky?
Yeah, I have quite a few questions, I think. And I guess the first is that I've been on the board for, a year and a half, and we've not ever really had anything from CABY. And it's been sort of this mysterious, I know because I listen, but the board has never really had, what is it? What is their mission? How much money have they brought to the district? There hasn't been a presentation to the board. And I remember asking Rem way back when, it's like, well, how do we find out about CABY? And he goes, oh, don't worry about it. It's a staff thing. It's dismissed it. And so I guess the first thing I'd really like to see is can we bring a whole CABY presentation to the full board? I'm certain that Director Beerwagen has no idea what this is. I don't know whether Laura does or doesn't. She's more in the water world. Scott may or may not know. And so it just feels like we're asking to approve approve projects based on a plan, and I know that there's differing opinions on whether or not specifically Centennial matches up to their plan. And so, what is the plan that is approved by DWR? I mean, I guess DWR, I think you said, Nathan, is going to approve the plan. There's a draft plan. It's like, what are we approving, and how does this match up to the plan? So that's a big question for me. I mean, that's kind of two-part. You know, do something so the board can be educated about what this is.
So we can do that. We can definitely bring the overview of CABY to the board at a future date, and what the integrated regional water management plan is in total throughout the state, kind of its administration by DWR, why they were created, what they are, how NID fits into this broader CABY consortium, which is the largest consortium within the state of California regarding these integrated regional water management plans. Spans 4 different pretty large watersheds and has multiple stakeholders.
Right, you know, I got Cosumnes American here.
We're not asking for we're not seeking approval of the list of projects.
I thought that's what you were.
No, this is a list of projects that was culled by staff through NID, various projects that meet the plan specifics.
But see, what is the plan? I mean, that's I go back to, we're looking at these projects that are supposed to meet a plan, but how can we say, yes, this does or does not meet a plan? I don't know, because I've not seen a plan. You know what I'm saying? It sort of feels like the cart before the horse, and it might be just fine to have Centennial in there. I don't really have a big, strong feeling one way or the other, honestly. But you know, again, back to process from a board perspective. You know, we've not seen anything about CABY. We don't know. You're quoting about a plan, and we don't know what that plan is. We don't know how these fit into it. And we make a statement here that this is in alignment with the plan. But if we haven't seen the plan, how do we know that it's alignment? I mean, you know what I mean? It just seems like there's a lot of missing information, and then to be asked to sort out these projects and approve or not approve Centennial being in here. So that's sort of my first concern. My second concern is as you look at Centennial and you look at all these other projects, you know, Centennial, you look at these projects on here, and, you know, you got $1 million here and $300,000 there and $10 million, and then all of a sudden $200 to $300 million, which, first of all, is not accurate based on, you know, this is based on 2017 engineering report, and everything I've seen, including the HDR study, has the number way up closer to $500 million. So that isn't even accurate. So then the next question I had is, well, how much money is available at CABY? I mean, like, there's this
not that much.
I know, that's right. So it's like, why submit a $300, $400, $500 million project when, what is it? What is the money, what is the pot of money that is available through this process for these projects?
Can I answer that, Greg? Can I speak up a
please
little? Okay, so the money that comes available to CABY is based on bonds that are brought before the voters, and they change over time. So, Ricky, in the last 15 years, there have been, you know, whether it was Proposition 1, Proposition 84, on and on. So the pots of money, some are maybe known as we speak right now, but others we don't yet know. And so there's no answer to that. And I think you're entirely correct that that is a huge dollar amount, and that dollar amount may not even reflect our most current reports.
It does not.
And so, as Greg said, this was pulled together over the last year. I mean, we've been in this plan revision process for 4 years at a minimum. And these documents were reviewed, and you're right. I hear what you're saying about the dollar amount being really kind of, the scale of it is not reflective of the other projects on the list.
Right.
And the state wants to see how can stakeholders work toward water resource management. So storage and supply was an issue brought up in our last version and this current version, that we are being pressed by the state to work through some of these really big, difficult questions. So there's a whole lot of backstory. So understanding CABY is a big undertaking, and there's a website that can help everyone. The cabyregion.org website has the current public review draft as well as all the prior drafts and some of the history and the types of projects that have been funded. But I think that I'm just hoping to say there is no single pot of money. What we know right now is for our region, there is $1 million from a funding cycle last year that we agreed to share it equally within. We're part of the Mountain Counties funding area. CABY has $1 million that once we finalize this version of the plan, but that is just a single opportunity right now that we know about. There will most likely be future funding, but there's so much in the air in terms of the crises we're facing as a state and a nation. Who knows how funding's going to come, et cetera.
So, Nasa, are you saying that, because I took this and I looked at our 5-year CIP plan, right, and, was looking at that. And what I didn't see in this CABY stuff was a priority. It's like
there's no priority.
There is no priority.
It's kind of like a bucket of goods, and we have bread and eggs and milk, right? And we have all sorts of goods that we buy at the store, and then at some point, DWR says, hey, we have a funding opportunity for eggs. All of you gather all your eggs in one basket, now put it together to a grant funding opportunity. The milk and the bread and the cheese get separated and they stay in the big bucket and they don't get pulled up to the front. So that's why there's no general priority to any of these.
I see, and that's true then for the other eggs. Well, my other concern was I did get, of course, an email from Elena DeLacy, somebody I don't even know, who was really taking to task this idea of having Centennial included. And one of the things she said was to have projects in the plans list, apparently within the CABY process, all members must agree, and there's not agreement on specifically to Centennial. And so I don't know, when I was looking at this, I thought, well, I don't feel like I have a big dog in this fight, truly, that this will sort itself out, but it seems to me that it doesn't fit. I'll just say it doesn't seem to fit. It's like $500 million versus we got $1 million, we got $300,000, we got, it's like, it's so far out there that it's like, why are we bothering? Because the truth is, if we are fortunate to get funding for Centennial, if that's what the board wants to do, it won't come from CABY, it doesn't sound like. It'll come from someplace else.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, it won't come from CABY. So why do this, and why create, with our partners, why create conflict?
Well, so the truth of the matter is that there is no process for agreement of projects within this initial project list. That comes later on when those projects from the project list are then packaged together, my reference to eggs, brought forth to then as a grant package to DWR. That is the culling and the agreement process within the RWMG. There is not, Nasa, correct me if I'm wrong, there is no process for taking any one of these projects that an individual organization or NGO has identified as a potential to meet some of the needs addressed within the CABY Integrated Regional Water Management Plan. That plan has been developed over 4 years through a bunch of stakeholders, and it's not something that has been necessarily brought forth as a discussion item to this board for a while. And I think the last plan that was updated, I believe, was 2011. Is that right, Nasa? 13?
I believe, and then there was just an amendment to it. I think that's correct. And then this revised version that we're working through right now, we have a dispute resolution section where we talk about the Regional Water Management Group is striving for consensus. However, if it cannot agree, then it needs, I believe it's the term a supermajority of 3 water agencies and 3 non-water agencies to proceed. However, that was not written from my perspective, and this may be argued by some of the other groups, to address the inclusion of projects on the list. That's for when we select out projects that if you can demonstrate how your project meets the goals and objectives and you're willing to adopt the plan, it goes on the list. It's intended to build the broadest casting of the net would become the project list. And then we will have to go through and do much more strenuous vetting and project evaluation for a specific funding opportunity when the project solicitation package comes out and they give you the detail of this is what we want to see to fund, these are the requirements, et cetera.
So my next question is, since we put this, to use your term, bucket of goods or projects in this big, large bucket, am I hearing you say that if we don't include a project or a potential project in this big, large bucket and funding through some bond like Prop 1 or whatever comes available, that unless we are in this bucket, we would not qualify for that? Or is it that, that's what I'm trying to understand. Right now there's $1 million, which is ridiculous. And
no, we understand.
Yeah, and so all I really want to know, because I don't think Centennial is really, this is the right place for it. This seems like small little regional projects that benefit everybody.
It's not. The integrated regional water management plan.
I understand, but what kind of, how much money has CABY provided over the years? Have they funded a dam project, since you said since 2011?
How many?
The water storage.
We're not talking about CABY funding Centennial. You're way off track.
No, I understand it's a state, but so then why, if CABY isn't going to fund it, and it doesn't really matter whether it's in this bucket or not.
They may fund a little piece of it.
Yeah. And then it almost seems kind of embarrassing. We already submitted to the state, and the state said, you don't even have any public benefit. Go away. Whatever that was about, I don't know.
That was different.
That's different. You're just parroting people's talking points.
No, I'm not. I'm looking, and I don't appreciate that, so knock it off. No, I did a lot of reading and a lot of checking. I talked to a lot of folks. I read through the stuff. I looked at our project improvement plan. I read through all of NACE's, really good work, and I so trust NACE. I think she's a rock star. Okay, I really do. But I don't know that this fits here for me. I think it's silly. But if that's what everybody wants to do, I'm also not going to follow my sword. I don't really care. If what I hear I care, but if what I hear is we have to have Centennial included in order for it to ever be included for funding in any other state project ever in the history of the world, then it probably should be here. But my guess is the funding for Centennial is going to come from someplace else, and some little $300,000 or $1 million towards this $500 million project is not going. It's a drop in the bucket.
Hey, Nasa, can you maybe just educate on this question of if a project is not particularly in this list,
in this bucket?
Is there an opportunity? Should GWR have a
call for water storage project?
Water storage
project.
Does this then not qualify?
So the only projects that would be restricted by being in the bucket or not in the bucket would be pertaining to integrated regional water management funding, IRWM funding. There are often other sources of funding. However, it is very common for every funding opportunity to point to the plans, the planning that is behind the project you are proposing. I would say the Bureau of Reclamation would want to know, where does this fit into the bigger picture as well? But I don't think it would be a fatal flaw to say it is or isn't. The CABY plan talks about this project, talks about water storage needs, talks about shifts in climate from snow to precipitation, which means
Right, I
we need
read
to have...
that in your,
And water supply.
in your thing and about water storage, and I saw that it's there, water storage is there. So, like I said, I'm not going to fall on my sword over it. It just seems inappropriate based on scale and and the fact that, apparently there's division within CABY, and NID does not have the best reputation in working with its partners, and it seems like why create, if it doesn't matter because we're not going to get the money anyway, why create a division when it's unnecessary? Because the chances of it getting any money are like zero. That's what I'm hearing. I mean, $500 million. Well, anyway, that's kind of what I think. It's like clearly there's a division. You said at the beginning there's 3 people, or I forget what you said, but there's some that don't think it belongs and some think it's fine. It's not going to make a difference whether it is here or not. That's what I'm hearing. So then why do it and create a further division?
Okay, are you finished?
I am. Thank you.
Thank you. And the alternative argument is, why not do it? I strongly support keeping it in the bucket because this is the only project on the list that actually addresses water supply.
That's not true.
In a significant way. So I believe that the request to remove this from the list is politically motivated. It's politically motivated by opponents of Centennial Dam. All they're really trying to do is delegitimize the project. And I strongly oppose removing this from the list.
And the insistence of keeping it on there is also politically motivated, so it cuts both ways. And that's true.
Fine. It needs to be on the list. It doesn't guarantee any funding. The funding issue is a separate issue. I agree with your call for board education on CABY. I think that would be great.
Yeah, I don't even know what
and
really.
This project will, of course, never be funded by CABY, but they can be at the table as a partner, and therefore they need to stay in the bucket.
Okay, so who's they, need to stay at the table as a partner? CABY? Is that what you're saying? They need to stay.
It would be good for CABY to be involved in this process all the way through.
But they would be either way, whether they provide funding or not, because it does impact a larger area. Is that what but I did hear that that's true.
So the only way that group of CABY stakeholders and the regional water management group would be involved in any funding of this sort if Centennial Project stayed on the list, if it became part of a broader group of projects that made its way forth to the state through DWR for funding, would be if the regional water management group at some future point, if and when there was a call for projects that had to do with storage or supply, then the CABY group would be involved in the review of such project and the approval of moving a project from this greater bucket list to an actual application to the state. That is the only time that the CABY sort of governance process would work through this, if that makes sense.
Well, I'm hearing you, but the inverse is not true, meaning that if we found another funding source for it, we could pursue it, but we would not need CABY's approval.
Correct.
Right?
That's correct.
So then I don't get it. If we can do whatever we want and we don't need their approval and they don't have any money to fund it, what's the point?
Well, that's probably a good reason to have an education on what the integrated regional water management plan is.
I know. That's why I am just so not prepared.
It's probably a good reason to come and just have a talk about what it is. And then I'm hearing obviously we're coming to a point where we're not going to be I think.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to agree, and
At this moment.
We're not going to agree.
Okay.
Nick wants it included.
I oppose removing this from the
Right.
list, and that's my final word.
And I think it should be, because I don't think it's fit with all this other stuff. But that's okay. I mean, so we disagree. Then I think what we should do is have a thing before the board where you educate the board about what is CABY.
And
And how much money is there, and what can it approve? And I mean, the governance process or whatever. And then what about insurance? Isn't insurance, I'd heard somewhere that there was a whole big problem about MOUs and insurance, and I don't know, I was so flooded with information that I came away going, we need a board workshop.
So perhaps there's an opportunity for an education a little bit more on CABY, specifically around the plan, the regional water management plan.
Right. And is that plan final, and has it been approved by DWR?
It has not yet. We're in the revision process right now. So we're within probably 30 to 60 days before it would be to a point where we hope to submit it to the state.
And what is the urgency or the timing of us approving or not approving Centennial being in here? I guess that's the only issue before us today. Is it included or is it not included?
Because the project list is part of the final drafting of the plan, and they're trying to wrap that up, so then we will close the public comment period and then move through final revisions and then submission to the state. So essentially, until we have an updated plan, and currently we're working to update the plan to meet the 2016 guidelines.
2016, is that what you said?
2016?
Yeah, 2016. It's a very slow process, CABY. Until we meet those guidelines, CABY is ineligible for any integrated regional water management funding, which is why we could not apply for the $1 million last year. And this $1 million that's floating out there, we would be able to access that, plus any additional IRWM funding that starts to become available. And there are other planning activities that some of the partners are undertaking as part of the stormwater management planning process, or other activities that require that those plans are part of an integrated regional water management plan. So there's multiple layers to this onion, shall we say.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, but there's really a push, and we are holding up some of the partners in the organization by not getting through the review and finalization steps.
And my understanding was we were supposed to have gotten this back in the springtime, but we didn't have this prepared. Is that correct?
Gotten which part? The draft plan?
Well, it's the middle of the project, that this was due in the spring or something, in April or May or something? Do we know?
Yes. I don't know. I can't exactly remember when, but we've had all kinds of rolling dates and extensions and review processes. So
yeah, I guess I was just trying to get at, is there urgency to do this right now? And if there is, why? And if there isn't, then let's do a board workshop, and then let the board decide. That's all.
So the only urgency, like Mason mentioned, is that until this plan is finalized, CABY region as a whole doesn't have a finalized plan to submit to DWR.
See, what I don't want this to be is like a referendum on Centennial. I just think that's a mistake. It's been so divisive, and it's like the funding from CABY is not going to, like you say, it's not going to fund Centennial. It's not going to even fund a tiny little, it's inconsequential.
Kind of a microscopically small
piece. So if we include this in here, then what I see is great brouhaha about this when it doesn't really matter.
So if it doesn't matter, leave it in.
Well, no, that's my point. The reason for not leaving it in is to further create division, okay?
We're not going to agree on this.
No, I understand, but it's like, it doesn't matter. We're not going to get the money to get it. Leaving it in, certainly, it just creates division, and within CABY itself, it sounds like.
It should be part of regional planning. it is important in terms of overall regional water supply reliability.
So we're not going to agree. So there. So we can end the item and move on.
Okay, is there, maybe we should open it up to, public comment?
Good morning. Can I be heard?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I will keep this short because there's many things that need to be discussed today, but I am aware of CABY and the role, and I actually was involved early on when I was an agency person as one of the stakeholders. To the point about including Centennial on this list, I think it is absolutely not reflective of a collaborative participation with the group. I believe Centennial, as Director Heck said, has become a flashpoint for controversy and concern, and it really is not even worthy of being included in this list as a integrated water management program now and in the future. So I strongly recommend that Centennial be removed from the list, from the bucket. Who knows what the future will bring as far as future state funding, but if history is any indication, no dams in California. So wake up, folks. Let's go ahead and work with our partners. There's over 30 different organizations represented in CABY, and NID has been a very, very important participant in that. And so I would just like to, improve our reputation and keep it going. So thank you, NASA, for your steadfast participation, but I just think including Centennial is absolutely inappropriate.
Thank you. Jeanette Carpenter?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am Jeanette Carpenter. I can't figure out how to put my video on. I'm a physician in town. I'm the past chief of surgery at our hospital, and I am in agreement with Director Heck that I think it's important that the board have more information about how exactly Centennial Dam would be purported to meet the plan specifics of CABY. And also if the board is not all present, and in Dr. Heck's words, Dr. Beerwagon doesn't even know what this is about, and he's my representative. I don't think it's appropriate to make such a large decision without appropriate information and with all of the members of the board not being present. I am not clear about the urgency whatsoever, except for a bit of what I heard is the urgency might be that it would close the public comment and there would not be an option for the public to comment anymore about the inclusion of Centennial Dam in this CABY. So I would also agree with the plan that you've all decided to bring more information about how Centennial would fit into CABY, and what's the urgency of making the decision today. And if you make the decision today, you don't have all the players there, so that doesn't make sense to me, unless they're voting by proxy. And so as a citizen, I would recommend the removal of Centennial Dam from CABY. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. John Norton? John Norton?
Good morning, thank you. My first question for NASA is, could this be submitted next year? Is there...
Yeah, I was going to ask that too, like in succeeding years.
Can I jump in at this point? I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, please, go ahead, Nathan.
Okay, so the project list is right now we're trying to update the project list. It has been a number of years since it was formally updated. However, the Regional Water Management Group could update it at a later date, even I think as often as annually or, quarterly if it's so elected to. But we're all doing this with, all the other things that are in our schedule. So I don't think it would happen very regularly, but I think certainly it is reasonable that the Regional Water Management Group can open up to update the project list on a regular basis. And it has also done it in the past when a specific funding opportunity was presented by the state. And if we didn't have good projects that could meet that funding opportunity, but we knew we have those needs out in our region, then we can go out and do a call for projects and then put those projects together into a proposal.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, to continue, based on that information, I think it's premature to submit Centennial into the CABY project list. I think we are still in the stage of reviewing some basic documentation that is a foundation for the discussion around CABY. And one of the things that hasn't been talked about at all, it seems like, is, if the big gold ag showed up and paid everything, that's something, but that's not likely. And if all of a sudden the state said, well, we would fund $100 million and you just need to come up with $400 million, I think NID needs to look very hard at the funding aspect of the Centennial and see what the economic impact is to the ratepayers. We already know that the agricultural community can't afford the existing rates. So, how far does this go? And you just start putting more and more people at risk by raising rates higher and higher. So I think you should delay it until you have more facts and information available. Thank you.
Diana Flores?
Hi, this is Diana Suarez. I feel like I'm watching a movie that I've seen before. I remember when the Proposition 1 funding came up and NID waited till the last minute to put in their application. So they put it before the board without the information and requested that the board vote without knowing what was going on. As it turned out, we went to the state, we talked to the Proposition 1 people, and NID totally embarrassed itself by being totally unprepared, having an inadequate application, not having done its homework. And I think it would be prudent for the board to take the time that it needs to really know what you're doing and weigh all the options. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cole? Nicole, can you hit star 6?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Now?
Yep.
Nicole Ragland, Nevada City. Director Wilcox openly said a moment ago that CABY won't be able to fund a project of this scope. So at this point, it seems frivolous to have it on the list. I find it troublesome that the director accused groups that you need to work with and work closely with of having ill intentions. This is problematic, especially since Director Wilcox won't be running again, and he's leaving behind a potentially damaged relationship if he continues to make these comments that groups who have a stake in our area are working without the best intentions. Over.
Thank you. That's it. With that, any more questions? Or any more comments?
I think it's clear. We're not in agreement here, and we can have that workshop on CABY, and we need to put it before the board.
Right.
I think it's a great opportunity.
Yep.
So thank you for that. We'll go ahead and,
Tracy? Sheehan?
Tracy, you are
Ready to go?
unmuted. Star 9. Okay. Well, if she comes on, we'll hear her in a moment. I guess at this point, and Tracy, we just can't hear you if you're trying to speak.
She already spoke.
Jeanette Carpenter?
Hi, just for clarification, so what are the next processes then? Is the next process that you'll have a meeting that you decided for the education? What happens now with what was put forth today? Is that the next step?
Yeah, that's where I was just heading to, Jeanette.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll work with Director Heck on setting this to a future board meeting coming up. We have some timing considerations both from the IRWMP perspective as well as NID's kind of outlook on board meetings in the next couple months. So we will bring this forth, and that meeting will really focus, I think on this education on what CABY is, I think an update what it is, what the plan's role is in the greater region as a whole.
Right. Is there a CABY staff person?
Yeah. Nathan.
No, there is not.
No, I mean like for the organization, like a general manager of
There
CABY.
used to be.
Well, we have the 8, this gets into the organization of CABY, the 8 members of the regional water management group. Those are entities, and they have each
Designated an employee
a
or
staff member
to
to be the staff member working through the development of the plan. Yeah.
Okay, so that I'll always trying to figure out is this, it'd be nice to have a representative from CABY here so that we can ask direct questions, and maybe that's NASA. Is that what I'm hearing?
For NID, that is for NASA and myself.
But there isn't like a you for the whole overall CABY.
There used to be a paid executive director of CABY. I don't believe there is anymore.
For the CABY Integrated Regional Water Management Plan, there is not a paid
okay, that's all. I just thought if there was, it'd be good to have him here, and if there's not, then
no, there's not. It would be an update from NASA and myself.
Okay. Great.
And we can go into that, and we can go into this. I do appreciate the conversation, and this is why particularly we brought this to you today. Staff, myself, and we brought this list together. We pulled this through all district staff. Certainly.
Yeah, no, the project list, it seems, great. Like I was saying, well, what about that, I was listening to Hemp Hill last night, the Hemp Hill Fifth Passage, is that in here? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was, but then I didn't see,
it's in there.
There was a lot going on yesterday.
The projects are the yellow bars, and then
no, I figured that out.
The spreadsheet repeats, and there's at least
but,
3 sets of
that was
bars.
There was a lot going on here.
We'll bring this back and educate the board on the IRWMP. I'll connect back with staff on our timing on this, and ensuring that, to be honest with you, we don't want to hold this up any longer than we absolutely.
No, I'm not.
Well, can we request that it be agendized in one of the next few meetings?
Greg and I will
work with Director Heck on making sure that happens. This has been going on. This plan has been building for 4 or 5 years. There is a broad number of organizations that are working really hard on this, and there is a lot of collaboration.
And they do good work. I mean,
there's a lot of money that's coming.
NID has received an enormous amount of money, I think. I think that's what Nancy told me, like, I don't know, 10, 12, $15 million bucks.
The origination of a lot of projects.
Over the years, not in one big block. But yeah, no, it's
NID,
wonderful.
Nevada City, has received Grass Valley
Right,
County,
so yay.
different NGOs in the region. It's
No, we don't want to hold it up. It's a great
Well,
organization, but we
built
just
a
need to
smart
know more.
pipeline out of the CABY grant, I believe.
I don't know that for certain, but it's possible. There's been
There are projects that.
there's a number of projects.
I know, it's really an important organization, which is also the other reason why I thought, you know, if we're not going to ever get any money out of it for Centennial, then why? So, upside everyone.
I hear you, I hear you. So
Okay, we're done.
in terms of the public, the process, we will be, bringing this back to the full board as an explanation of what CABY is, and we'll go from there.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nasa. I still think you're a rock star.
Thank you. Thanks for the discussion.
And I would agree with that.
Thank you.
Okay, we will close item 2 and move on to item 3.
Okay, this was brought by me. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to create work for everybody. I just asked a question.
Smoking within the NID recreation facilities, this is just a review and discuss cigarette smoking within NID recreation facilities. During a recent M&R meeting, I couldn't locate the actual.
It's okay, I just mentioned it.
Yeah. I didn't know it was in. You had brought up the topic and concerns of guests smoking cigarettes within NID recreation facilities.
Due to fire, though, that was
exactly,
the
yeah.
thing. It wasn't like I have some moral.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
I will tell you that this is a hard topic to get information for. If you wanna learn or want information on smoking marijuana in facilities, you can get a lot of information. But cigarette smoke, you've got to talk to people because it's not like it was in their rules and regulations.
I just thought smoking in general.
Yeah,
You know, it wasn't
it's
differentiated.
weird. So recreation staff research, we did a lot of internet research, but not getting a lot of information off the internet or not being able to find it, we had to do a lot of calls as well. We found that most campgrounds do allow the public to smoke cigarettes but don't promote it, i.e. meaning the buckets with the sand, the taller, ashtray, stuff like that, signs, stuff like that. We found that campgrounds, including those owned by NID, do not have an issue with cigarette smoke bothering other campers or other users. I've been in this position for 4 years, and that is one complaint, knock on wood, that I haven't received.
Right. You know, that wasn't my issue either. It was just simply fire.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we kind of just brought it just to kind of see, to get all the information.
Yeah.
We checked out the Nevada County Fairgrounds, all of our local campgrounds, U.S. Forest Service, BLM, state parks and campgrounds, Harmony Ridge, kind of to get more of like the glampers in in-town campground, Collins, Greenhorns, those kind of campgrounds. We found that for the most part, it's not an issue as far as the smoke or the cigarette butts. That seems to be the problem. That's where it all starts.
The cleanup of all that,
and the cleanup.
Right.
So staff did find that there were some campgrounds that had designated smoking areas, and those were more of like the in-town campground in Harmony Ridge, more of the glamping where you're renting an RV, one of their RVs or their cabins. We also had others that treated the cigarette butts and smoking as a pack-in, pack-out. So you smoke you take your butts with you.
Just like they do with their trash.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then some.
Mostly.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned it, right.
And then some, and this is kind of odd, I found this odd, and this is mostly with the state parks and campgrounds. They don't allow smoking in their facilities, but if you want to walk out to the parking lot, you could smoke out in the parking lot.
Well, it makes sense, though,
Yeah.
because most parking lots are asphalt or
Exactly.
cement, right?
Yeah. Or
So
your
you
car.
put your butt out.
They would prefer you smoke in your car, but if you had to, you could smoke in the parking lot.
Right. Interesting. Huh.
Yeah. So it was the consensus of NID staff and other agencies and campgrounds. We found that smoking, that if we prohibited it or put some type of, rules on it, those who smoke are still going to smoke. And in the end, potentially would be making the risk of fire ignition more significant and dangerous.
Do you? Okay.
And that's kind of, I've noticed like every once in a while in the upper division. I'll walk, I walk around a lot, and I'll be walking up on somebody, and whether they think they're supposed to be smoking or not, it's like, it's like that knee-jerk reaction to get rid of it. And it's like, don't do that. So, and it's a blue shirt that does it. Scares people. So that was just kind of right now we don't promote it. We don't not promote it.
Silent.
But yeah, and it seems that everyone's respectful of it. We don't have an issue with it, and other agencies don't have an issue as well. So like I said, this was just for informational only, just.
Policing would be.
Well, no,
that would be a total nightmare.
Do we allow drinking alcohol in our campground?
Yes, we do.
We do, okay.
Yeah.
We don't sell it.
We don't
Yeah, we
sell
do
it.
not sell it.
Used to.
So, I don't have an issue. I only brought it up because of the fire thing.
Yeah,
And I'm grateful that you did this work. I'm sorry that you had to do this work. That was not the intention, was to create more work for staff. I just was like, gosh, in fire season, it seems like we shouldn't have smoking, but that was my only thought. So thank you for that.
I think Ricky's concern is legitimate. I mean, the issues with regard to smoking for me are, one, indoor air quality, and B, fire. And I tend to agree with Monica that if you try to put rules and prohibitions on it, you just drive it underground because it's legal in our society at large.
Exactly.
Whether it should be or not, and, whether it presents a, too great a health risk, that's a different issue.
Well, that's a personal choice.
That's a personal choice. And I guess, on this kind of issue, I tend to be, lean a little bit libertarian. People, can harm themselves if they wish. I don't smoke. I've never smoked. I choose not to. So I think that the best course of action is to leave well enough alone.
Me too. Thank you, though, for doing that work.
You're welcome.
Again,
That's good.
Please tell everybody I'm so sorry. I did not mean to
Good
make a big.
education. See what others are
Well,
doing.
that's what happens when directors bring points up. Staff jumps to attention.
Well, but it was it was really interesting to find out, especially given our fire situation, which is dire.
Yeah.
So,
Good to know.
Do we have any public comment? Sid Brown?
Yes, good morning. I was wondering, Monica, I was very surprised that you didn't refer to Senate Bill 8, which was signed by the governor in October of 2019, banning smoking with very detailed definitions of what smoking is in all state beaches and units of the state park system. There is a provision that allows smoking in designated areas of parking lots and pavement, as you described. But I would like to counter your conclusion about it not being a big deal. It really is a big deal. I have spent countless hours picking up butts on NID land, on state park land, on public roadways. It's a big deal. And I'd also like to draw your attention to, the good old days when if somebody would want to hear music in a public establishment, you had to endure indoor smoke. But our society and culture has changed. And I just believe that it is important for NID to consider at least falling in alignment with what the governor of California and the state legislature has done for state park properties and units of the state park system. So I'm curious, did you not consider SB 8, or did you just believe it was not pertinent?
No, I read through it, but I mean, and I didn't mean that it's not an important issue. My comment was that it's not NID as far as our facilities within the campground. I'm not seeing it as an issue as far as the cigarette butts or the lack of respect of smokers to non-smokers. That's what I was saying. The consensus from our research and talking to my staff and other agencies, that's what we came up with. I mean, I'm not a smoker. I don't like cigarette smoke. But I mean, I'm not going to tell somebody they can't do it.
Well, it's the biggest item of litter in all our cleanups. So I think you might, great if NID people don't drop their butts, but I have seen a different situation. So I would just encourage you to consider limiting the use of, you know, to go back, look at SB 8, and consider some guidance for your campers and day use people to not smoke in NID facilities. As has been referred to already, the fire hazard is huge, and it just is something that is not necessary for us to produce in our public and NID managed lands.
Okay, thank you. And another public comment? Okay, no more public comment. We will close item 3 and move on to environmental resources activity report. Mesa?
Hello again, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. What you have before you is the program activities report, the status report for the environmental resources program here. During the last month, we have continued to work to address fire fuels issues and to continue our interfacing. PG&E is doing a whole lot of line clearing and expanding their line hardening program, which takes a significant amount of our time to meet with them, understand the scope and scale of the work, how they will be doing tree removal from very large trees down to what they call brushing units, which is small brush, 1, 2, 3 inch in diameter shrubs that they're removing. Many of these lines go through our campgrounds or along canals and what have you, parts of our infrastructure that need to be left undamaged. So we've been doing lots of work associated with fire fuels treatment on NID-owned property, as well as working with PG&E for their easements. Our grant-funded activities are continuing. Due to the fires, we have not been back up to English Meadow in this past month. However, we had significant work we did earlier in the summer. And just last week, I can't hold the good news off any longer. We were notified by the Wildlife Conservation Board that they selected our English Meadow Floodplain Enhancement and Restoration Project. They selected us for funding. So that will be a $1.2 million grant to do 3 to 4 years of project implementation. And it's been 3 seasons of field data. We began collecting baseline conditions 3 years back now. We've installed a stream gauge. We've got very good pre-project information about the condition of English Meadow and the forest. And now we will be able to go out and take that information to move us forward to address reconnecting the main stem of the Middle Yuba River, where it flows through the meadow there. With its floodplain, it's got a disconnection issue where high flows scour and cut the banks back and erode the river channel, as opposed to flooding out and further saturating the meadow. So we will restore that main stem meadow floodplain connection, as well as do 200 acres of fire fuels treatment to create a more resilient forest community. So when wildfire occurs up there, the forest will have a much less intense burn, and it will be more resilient to wildfire and climate change stress and all of the rest. So that's been wonderful news we just received at the end of last week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It is wonderful and exciting, and we have an interdisciplinary team of folks we've worked with over the years that include researchers from California State University, Sacramento. We've got geology department folks working with us, Dr. Kevin Cornwell, as well as Dr. Michelle Stevens, who's an ethnoecologist in the environmental studies program that has done our botany, our floral surveys. We've worked with Plumas Corporation. They do meadow restoration, and they've done a lot of measurements within the valley bottom. So we know how the valley bottom is currently structured and the slope of the river. We have a design concept, so now we get to take it all the way through for environmental compliance and permitting between now and June. So we'll broaden the conversation with our agency partners and other groups and take this project to the next stage, which is really exciting. Additionally, under the grants, we're working at Scotts Flat, and we are doing fire fuels treatment on the Scotts Flat side of the reservoir. We've been working with the Washington Ridge crews a little bit over the last month to do some hand treatment. There are parts of the forest where the trail connects between the Gate 1 and Gate 2 campgrounds. That is very close to the water edge when the reservoir is up. And you cannot put machines in that zone. It's in the setback for a water course. So we've had hand crews in there doing work along that trail, and it's looking really beautiful. So we've been working on the Scotts Flat side, and now we're preparing to work between Cascade Shores and where the Deer Creek flows into the reservoir. So that slope. That work is going full steam ahead. And I think the rest of the program update would just be work around CABY, but I think we've already discussed that. We'll just skip right over. Things are going. We've been very, very busy, and hopefully we'll have some cooling temperatures that will allow us to get working at a little bit of a faster pace, because we can bring machines back out to do the mastication and the fire fuels understory treatment that we've stopped, basically. We get very concerned this time of the year for all the obvious reasons.
Mesa, the only thing I want to add to that, and I notified the board of this on Friday at our special board meeting, is that we've recently completed the 3 or 4 years worth of timber harvest planning that we've done around Scotts.
Yes.
I don't see that on here, but that was a huge undertaking that we needed to do for many, many years. And so thank you to Mesa and her team for pushing that one through. And it was actually, we came out in the black overall on that one, which is really great. We hit the
Due to timber sales.
We hit the sale market of timber at the right time, and the composition of trees in that Scotts Flat zone was right for the market as well.
Wow. So when that happens, if we come out in the black, then we haven't expended all of our grant funding, so that allows us to roll that over and do more treatment work.
We've been
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've been using that money then to do hazard tree removal at different places, so kind of one-off acres and this and that. So perfect. It's been a great collaboration.
It has. It's only briefly mentioned. I was looking, Greg, on the top of page 2, the Scotts Flat Reservoir Selective Timber Harvesting. So that timber harvest plan indeed has been a multi-year. We're in the 4th year. And what we've done is created a shaded fuel break, which is a way of going in and creating spacing between the canopies of the trees that we leave, a 15 to 20 foot spacing. So the understory has been thinned. We've selectively removed trees, always with an eye toward keeping the healthiest, best trees. And we have an eye always, our forester works to create a multi-species, multi-aged forest community, because that will always be your strongest, most robust forest ecosystem. And we're creating this 20-foot spacing between the canopies, the crowns of each tree, so that when a wildfire were to arrive at a location like that, it's a slowdown point. There isn't a fuel that turns it hopefully into this uncontrollable mass of fire. And so we've done a cross-canyon fuel break from Pasquale Road across and up through the Gate 1 campground. We're closing down and ensuring that all of the protections through the forest practice rules are in place. Any dirt roads or skid trails, we've got chips on them, we've got water bars, we've addressed erosion potential, and we'll be closing that out in the next 3 weeks. So that was, good point, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you. And I remember our last board meeting, Director Beerwagen asked, goes, where's NASA? We miss NASA. Can she come and give us the full board report? And maybe that will happen at the CABY time. Do you remember?
I do remember.
Director Beerwagen asking.
Yeah.
I miss NASA and what she's doing. I know she's doing good work. We want to know more.
We could probably work that in.
Okay.
Well, and the next thing to just mention also on the horizon is we now have an executed contract with CAL FIRE for the California Forest Improvement Program grant for Rollins Reservoir. We just received an additional $145,000 through CAL FIRE to do roughly 103 acres of fuels treatment at the Orchard Springs and Long Ravine campgrounds. We've already gone in and treated at Peninsula campgrounds, so we've really thinned the forest, really treated the accumulated dead and down material, and now we'll move over to Orchard Springs. We've done some work there already, as well as Long Ravine campground. So we're starting to prepare the sites now, but we will begin that work in the next 30 to 60 days as well.
Great. Thank you.
Do we have any public comments? Jeanette Carpenter?
Hi, just want to say great work. That is fantastic report. I love hearing this kind of stuff, and it makes me really proud to know all of this backstory, complicated work that you do, and I love hearing this report. I'm extremely proud that you've gotten the English Meadows Restoration Project grant. And I second what Director Heck said, that it's great to hear these reports from NASA about all of this fantastic forest clearing that you're doing, and then also using the downed timber for income, for coming out in the black. Strong work, team. Fantastic.
Thank you.
No, okay, we will close item number 4 and move on to item 5, maintenance activity report. Bob McDonald.
Hello, Bob McDonald. I'm the interim maintenance manager at this point in time.
Well, hello there.
Hello. So, just carrying on the report from the last, it's been broken down into the different topics under the general maintenance workload. As defined, there was 3 noted emergency call-outs, and then moving down to the general, it was basically talking about activities outside of the support of any of the services or any of the clients, so to speak. And it's just about training. We've carried on forklift training. That's an ongoing process in maintenance between hands-on equipment operation or personal exposure to excavation or fall protection. So there's almost something every month that could be included. This happened to be, we were doing some makeup training for forklift, covered by Dawn in the safe operation, understanding and knowledge of equipment. Moving down to the canal section, we spoke about the word routine towards the bottom, which is really including the basic components of what we're trying to achieve out there, keeping the brushing down, dealing with leaks, repair, vegetation removal. That tends to happen this time of year with the summer. Even the vegetation is adamant on their process. Sometimes the heat and things and just the interim of time in between the treatments, we have to go out and accommodate by moving either physically or mechanically. And then the construction crew, they've been working very diligently up at Lidster. It's been an interesting project for them. Lidster is built on pretty much a rock.
That's the lid.
Not to offend any of the locals that may live there. It's just been our experience, their experience, that, and when you look at their overall daily reports, they've gone from 200 feet a day to 20, 40 feet, 2 sticks of pipe. I was up there yesterday, and they're doing a great job. They have a crew in front of them doing all the USAs because it's an older infrastructure. There's gas, sewer, et cetera. So they're dealing with that, planning ahead, and still trying to get through the rock phase. So they're completed with phase one, as reported. They've started and completed phase one of the repair and blacktop, which is putting the streets back together, making the locals happy. That is a good thing. It's overall about 3,000 plus feet. They've completed about 2,000 of it. The goal for them, they've worked with the city. They're going to carry into the expected rain season, which we're estimating will be around the Thanksgiving mark date. We're hoping. I always base everything on Thanksgiving because that's about when rain really starts to come. Anyways, the city's working with us. They don't want them to do any construction during rain, but in between storms. So their desire is to get this job completed into the fall. So that's a good thing. And then facilities, going down to them, they are responsible, of course, for keeping the main yard and all the other areas of the district looking respectable, keeping the weeds down, keeping things cleaned up. It broadens out. They've done work up at the Lake Tender House at Scotts Flat. They've helped the construction crew go back and do repair on sidewalks where they've had to remove for service line reconnections in that whole new main. Also jumping back to Litzer, a big part of that job is to get the utilities, our utility, back into the street. When that development was done, performed, a lot of the main still goes through some of the yards, not splitting yards, but off of the main street. So of course that's problematic if there's a break. Anyways, and then fleet, of course, I kind of joke with them, they keep fixing things, and we keep them busy because
You keep breaking things.
I didn't want to say it that way. What I wanted to say was
break, not
keep
you.
things moving here.
Yeah.
And when things are moving,
breaks.
so they have a myriad of all that they have performed for the district, and it spills over into working with the electricians to make sure, having our first PSPS, that all of our generators are ready to go, things are ready to move and pick up should there be any lengthy power outage, as well as doing different inspections for the equipment, keeping it so it is operational. The Placer crew, very unique crew in the context that they are sort of a catch-all in the sense that they do raw and treated, so during the summer months they're quite busy in the North Auburn LOP area, picking up a lot of treated work. That also has spilled over recently to coming up and helping up here in Wildwood. I believe they had another, some work up in the Whispering Pines area, and that was just basically driven by the fact that our service crew, as you'll see in the next segment, was busy laying another main line in the Apple Annex area, kind of over by Burger King, if you will. And so stretching those guys in that direction to get that project done, minimize their ability to cover all of the services. So it was a coordinated effort, and again, Placer is very good at adjusting, dealing with North Auburn, dealing with LOP, and then also still keeping enough guys to keep some of the prioritized needs on the raw side down in that area as well. Again, jumping back to our service crew up here, as it speaks, the Apple Avenue, Annex Avenue, they laid down 1,100 feet of 8-inch C900, upgraded that whole system. Don't know the date it was installed, but I'm going to guess, it was 50s, 60s perhaps. So imagine with a new structure, infrastructure, they're able to add some hydrants and those kind of infrastructure needs. And the crew continues to repair main lines and do service lines, fire hydrants, et cetera. It's just sort of a take it on as it comes to us kind of mindset. Of course, we're looking at the future and prioritizing, but it can be very reactionary. Jumping up to the South Yuba, primarily the Bear Valley, kind of a moving target in the sense that we know it's coming. We just don't know when exactly. There was some budgeted monies to do some work on what we're going to call the laydown yard. There was a basic building design, 120 feet by 50 feet, which was primarily for storage, small office area, just so people could utilize that if necessary, as well as facilities. We talked a lot with Hydro, got their input, taking small, very conservative steps, yet also trying to keep in step with FERC, which is, from my understanding, is holding, shall I say, all the cards at this point in time. We're waiting to find out when we really take ownership. Again, we're trying to be conservative. We want to be prepared, but we don't want to be overzealous and put a lot of money into something that we're not quite there yet.
Right.
Again, but we know it's coming. We've been very fortunate.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have already added a couple of FTEs for the Bear Canal.
That is,
and we did a budget amendment last year, as I recall, and we added a fair amount of money to take care of that. So how big is the South Yuba Canal budget?
I believe for 21, it's set at about, I want to say it's 250.
Say a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're currently in the process of doing a comprehensive engineering evaluation of the condition of the canal. GHD or something is doing that. And when is that expected to be completed?
I don't have the exact date. It is about to start within the next few weeks, though. They're going to start doing the full tour of the system.
And the idea is that we will come up with a punch list of items that need to be attended to, that we can hand to PG&E, and they will fix them before we take possession of that canal.
That is my understanding.
And those two FTEs were necessary for this period of time in order to work with PG&E. We've been shadowing them constantly, getting to understand what this system is. It's elaborate, it's old, it's unique, and so that is the point of those two FTEs at the moment, in order for them to really get in, so that when the flip is switched.
So the flip is switched. So at that point, that mythical point when the handover takes place, do we have any idea of what the additional expected ongoing costs would be?
I don't have that number. There's been proposals and some budgetary thinking put forward. I have a list. A lot of what Greg was speaking of about working with PG&E has enlightened us how to prepare, and then that information carries over to what those costs could look like. What I have learned is it appears that, PG&E has cut back on it. So what they used to do and what they do currently, we're trying to find out in between those two.
Hopefully, they're not accumulating deferred maintenance that then will fall on.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just simply saying, like everything, it ebbs and flows. And so,
Sure.
Probably 15 to 20 years ago, they may have had a bigger crew that performed a greater task up there. Now it's been compiled backwards or downward to have less impact. Yet we still look at access roads and making sure that spillways are cleared. All those responsibilities still exist. They may be dealing with them as they arise and not staying in front so much.
So, this is an important issue. It seems to me that there are a couple of issues. We take over the system, we have to keep it operating, obviously, and that's going to cost something. But I think we need to work into our long-range planning projects that will potentially re-engineer the system. because, you know, running water through 26 miles of high flume and open canal that's vulnerable to fire and other things is certainly doable. It's been done for a long time, but it may not be the most robust way of getting the water from point A to point B.
There's always been speculative talk about what the future holds. How do you minimize your exposures up there? There's been conversation about boring through hills, cutting the loop. It goes across and around points as it goes through that 17 miles. Can you minimize that by making more, dare we say, a direct line? Yeah. Expensive procedures that have a lot involved. The district, the board will have to assess what they want to do. You are right, it has been done and it is being done, but it is an exposure that's part of the education phase that we're at right now.
Yeah.
So
I would just encourage that those kinds of planning efforts continue. This is a vital link in our water system, and it's somewhat fragile. I think we need to continue looking at ways to make it more robust and work better.
Vital link is an understatement.
Vital, yeah.
We definitely need.
It's the aorta,
Yeah.
actually.
Absolutely.
well, I can tell you personally, when we weren't even as involved as we are now, being a few years ago when the Lowell Hill fire popped, first thing I thought of was, oh boy, you got 17 miles of wooden flume. Other utilities have dealt with such events where flumes do burn down, but the exposure rate in the summer is probably the highest because that's when the demand is greatest and the fire potential.
So this is a personal thing. I encourage you guys to continue working with engineering and look at imaginative ways to make this system more robust.
Reliable even.
Doug Roderick is overseeing the engineering firm that is coming out to look at it.
And Doug loves tunnels.
So I think, we will glean a lot of information after that report is finalized, and that could help, initiate direction on prioritizing.
So I'm sorry for the distraction, but this is a critical issue for the district going forward.
Yep. Well said.
Yeah, so keeping in mindset with that critical, we have the two employees that are working up there. They've done a great job. We've done some basic footprint work. They're doing a fence right now to define the area, step by step. I think as the board gets more comfortable and this gets more tangible and real to us, then we'll have to look at hard budgeting. I'm sure perhaps the next general manager will take the reins and run with it.
About 5 or 6 years ago, and I'm sure you probably recollect this, it was in the middle of summer, a bright, calm, sunny day. The wooden flume just fell over because of dry rot. And so part of the GHD inspection will be to look at every post in that system to determine which ones need replacing.
Like a termite inspection.
Yeah.
It kind of is like a termite inspection.
It kind of
17-mile-long termite inspection.
Yeah, I mean, that's essential. And my understanding is that is going to happen, and PG&E has pledged to turn it over to us in operable condition.
Yeah. The result of that report and how that could possibly elongate this process, we won't know until the information is gathered. But, our two permanents right now have put together logistical and logical hiking distances, mileage-wise per day, and good pickup areas where that group can be facilitated through, allowing them enough time to really look at every post, but also not be left out there. You know, there's not a lot of pickup spots on this. There's minimal 3 major roads and a lot of little.
It's very, very difficult and problematic. I sympathize with the issue you have, but you know, I bring the issue up because, you know, in committee, that's an opportunity for us to think strategically about needs in the district, and this is absolutely at the top of the list.
Yeah. So, you know, they are doing some work. We've had some trees removed, planning to develop the yard, obviously. As Greg mentioned, we've had a great relationship with PG&E. They've included us in their fall and spring work, so that's a great hands-on experience for our 2 current employees that work up in that area. I just want to also let you know that when the snow flies and that responsibility kind of defers truly just back to PG&E, and we have we're connected with Hydro, NID. Those relationships have been well established by the 2 employees, but those 2 employees come back and we absorb them into maintenance work here. So there's always plenty for them to do. Just make sure that, you know, they're not just watching the snow fly.
Good to know.
And then, of course, vegetation, very busy crew. You know, they did 1,000+ miles of aquatic.
I didn't know we had that many miles of canal.
Well, what we have is,
Yeah, I thought that's kind of, I didn't understand.
it's an accumulative of that time frame.
Oh, so it's 1 mile 5 times.
Well, what it really is they have a schedule that they adhere to.
Oh.
And
So it's
daily,
like Golden Gate Bridge?
it's probably more true than the Golden Gate Bridge, you know, in the sense that when you are done, you go right back to the top and start over.
Got it.
So in the
Okay.
time frame of this report, it was a total of 1,000 miles. We don't have 1,000 miles of canal.
Right, we don't, I know we don't. So that literally kind of was like,
A little less than half that.
Yeah,
yeah,
But they go back.
but they go back.
so they go back.
Quarter of that.
470.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
1 month on their schedule totals up to about 500+ miles. And then during the time frame of this report, they've done a couple of months, so you're pushing 1,000+.
Right, got it.
So,
Yeah.
It's a big job.
Yeah, I know.
It's a big job.
I know.
and then for that.
Working for PWA at the same time? Yeah.
That's for the aquatic weed control, and then the terrestrial, which Jason is here. He's runs the vegetation crew. He's the assistant maintenance manager for that. They did 143 miles of terrestrial spraying on top of the other 1,100. So they're very busy, obviously. They have a schedule that comes out in April and it carries them until October, and they just don't deviate from that. And then I threw in the welders. They do a lot of fabricating for us for the whole district. They'll do things for hydro. They've done things for recreation. And then, of course, maintenance. They've worked on a couple of specific projects on top of their regular work, which is, you know, equipment, maintenance, repairing new equipment, headache racks, cages, lumber racks, et cetera, preparing vehicles for actual service. They did some spools for the siphon. I hate one that we're looking at replacing this fall. They did fabricated partial flumes for water operations, those kind of, and then they also do work at the facilities, treatment plants. So that's pretty much where we're at. There was a breakdown of some of the projects that have been performed at Bear Valley, where we're going. And then, of course, Jason is here because we are in the start of a study with glyphosate.
Mm-hmm.
And that committee is doing some research for us. At this point, we're probably about 9% of that information gathering has been completed. and they've spent probably out of the close to $50,000 contract, about 4,000 of it. It's got different tasks, as is noted in your report, and they're somewhere between task 2 and task 3, if you will.
So we brought, I asked for, 2 things. Bob was we put together a quick, overview of the Bear Valley project. You had asked for that last month,
Yeah,
I believe, kind of where are we, what does it look like, how much?
right, what are we doing? Yeah,
So we did that.
thank you, I
In
appreciate that.
here, and just wanted to kind of give you the broad brush of what that's looking like. We do actually, we've got budget for it in '21. We'll see kind of where that goes. I think Bob mentioned earlier, we're just sort of kind of ebbing and flowing with how our PERC process is going and where we think that's going to take over. We just want to be prepared. We've done a number of things up there, and we'll still do some more this coming year. We're just going to kind of see how 2021 starts and how much we believe we want to, how much work we need to put up there. Not to completely finish it because we think that we still got a little more time, but we don't want to be caught on our heels when the time comes.
Right,
So
good planning.
it's a prudent way to look at it. I'm sorry, Bob.
No, that's the exact of it, yeah. I mean, we're just sort of trying to be good stewards, but not too aggressive, you know. The primary goal is to develop the laydown yard. The desire for us there is to have some lumber, the nuts and bolts, the pans. You know, we went out and figured out the cost for
The belly.
the terminology between NID and PG&E is interesting because I think I'm one of the last few guys that actually worked on flumes when we had them in down country. And so our girders and belly pans and things that we reference, PG&E has a different definition. We're learning their definitions because we've reached out to their suppliers and have gotten relationships with them. The guys have figured out the general cost if we had to go repair 100 feet of elevated linen flume and what it would cost to do 100 feet of wood box flume. Just so we have those numbers, we have those connections. When that day comes, when this yard is developed, we can store.
So what happens when the one company left in the world that manufactures linen flume belly pans in Marysville goes out of business?
Well, we're going to think positively and hope that, you know.
Just curious.
Well, that's a very valid point. And that goes back to your other point about planning. At some point, it's going to be difficult to get away from that just by topography. As you've seen on Highway 20 right there on the left, there's no way to get water from A to B without it being in an elevated. You know, we will have to come up with perhaps a fiberglass. Part of that whole project and part of the 2 employees, the supervisor, we've talked about this, a young man named Evan Parks, a very diverse guy.
I know Evan.
You know Evan?
I do. My husband taught him in elementary school.
Yeah.
That's why it's so diverse.
Well, him and Eric Morgan, I mean, to be quite honest, most everybody in the maintenance department is a get it done mindset.
Yeah.
But Evan is very creative. You know, he's forward thinking. So we will be looking at those kind of items. You know, technology is out there. You know, part of what we would love to do is find a way to deal with algae and minimize any kind of chemical exposure to those belly pans. You know, galvanized has not performed the way it was back in the 60s. It's not quite as tough, if I may say.
Don't put as big a coating on them.
Yeah. But they're out there, you know. We'll connect.
Cool.
Yeah. I think really the plan with that would be have enough in stock that you can absorb for a while.
For a while. Yeah, to get you to when the next technology shows up. Yeah.
So we wanted to bring that to you, and then Jason, our assistant maintenance superintendent, runs our veg programs. So we want to
Runs our what program?
vegetation.
Veg, okay.
Yeah, VegWorks, so IBM, and so we put together this list, and, you know, the study's out right now, we talked about the study last month. They put together this, here we are as far as the plan, and looking towards, what, mid-January?
Yeah, about that.
Okay.
Have we met Jason before?
No.
I don't think so. Maybe you could
Jason,
introduce
sorry.
yourself.
Well, I believe have you come to one of the board meetings originally?
Jason is a real new in play. How long have you been here, Jason?
Just hit 6 months.
Yeah,
Okay.
we need to know
Okay.
Jason. Hi,
We'll
Jason.
bring Jason to the full board as well as Bob.
Yeah,
Here,
that'd be good.
on to the next meeting, yeah.
Okay.
Giving them a little time to
To kind of, settle
get on
in.
their feet.
They're letting me acclimate a little bit.
That's good.
Is there anything you want to say about the plan, the study at this point, Jason?
No, they're moving along. We're actually pretty happy with the company. They're pretty aggressive about who they've been out in contact. They've already started working on their list of potential people and a list of questions that they're going to submit back to us to review and see if we want to add or change any of the questions before they start asking. Very good about being in communication. Okay. So we're actually excited to see what the results come out of it.
Good. This is important work here, and we've got to be prepared for when we can't use it anymore.
That's right. And just so you know, there was an email that went around a week ago or so, and Jason and his crew are in touch with this biochar.
Oh, good. Thank you.
So they're reaching out and finding out what exactly this is about. Maybe there's applications.
Maybe there is. I don't know. It's not my purview, but at least I'm glad that they're in touch, because those folks, they were like pastors. You could, they wanted to make you believers, and it was great. It's like, yes, I want this, but so I'm glad you guys are investing in it.
Yeah, we're definitely interested to see what comes out of it.
Great, thank you.
Okay, do we have any public comment? None. We will close item 5 and move on to item number 6, the recreation activities report. Again, like last month, I kind of lumped everyone together just because COVID has been our big thing. And I will tell you that educating the day users of motors and campers on COVID safety has been quite a challenge and has been quite a task. We do it often. So, and staff still continues to do an awesome job and keeping themselves safe and everyone else safe. So that's been great. Smoke from the fires has definitely slowed down our day use and boaters, but not our campers. We've been getting a lot of cancellations, but as soon as they cancel, the spot's taken right away. So we're still, for what we have open, we're still packed every weekend, which is awesome. During the Jones fire, we did have about 6 families that were evacuated that came up and stayed at Scott Flat Gate 1. Since Gate 1, we only had about 20 sites open for the season. We kind of kept them up at the top of the campground, easy access in and out for daily life. And we didn't charge them, and no one stayed longer than about a week. So that was nice of us.
When do our campgrounds close for the season?
We don't, at Clemenceau, it's closed, but typically we do operate year-round in our lower divisions.
Really?
Yeah, Scotts Flat, Orchard Springs, and Long Ravine, we do have camping, winter camping. We just don't have the amount of sites open as we do during the summer. But we do have winter camping.
I don't know why I didn't know that. Okay.
The upper division closes down.
Yeah, the upper division, we'll discuss that when we get there.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all a mess right now, but it's all up in the air. And then as of October 1st, we just talked about this, Scotts Flat, Orchard Springs, and Long Ravine, we transition back to a first-come, first-served basis, so there's no reservations until next April. So, because it's our winter season, so it's basically first-come, first-served.
Do we find, I'm just curious, that from October to when it's really awful weather, what is the percentage used, do you think? Is it just weekends, or is it?
Typically just weekends. If we're having a rainstorm or a snowstorm, unless you have an RV, you're not coming up. What we have started to do, especially over at Orchard Springs, is this came on us last year, is that a lot of the tree guys that are working for the PG&E that are staying long-term, we're allowing them, we're getting the letter from their company letting us know that they are their employee and that they would like them to stay longer than our 14-day. And so we have been, we've been allowing that to happen. Mostly that's been happening just at Orchard Springs because then the local life's there. But we do, it's funny, we do have our regulars that will bring up their RV during the snowstorm, and they are just so happy. They're all by themselves, and it's snowing, and they get to see the lake, and it's beautiful, and I love it. It's just a problem about getting them out when the snowstorm is over, but it all works out in the end.
They're retired.
Exactly. Stay with us. We'll get you out when we get you out. Since we closed camping in Peninsula, staff, we've actually only had 2 staff there. But they've gotten a lot done. They've painted the inside of the cabins. We have 3 cabins there, and all the bathrooms got painted this season. So they are beautiful, ready for next year. And then they did close on September 13th for the season. They are closed. Upper Division. Let's talk about the Upper Division. Let's start off with positive. NIV's hydro welders have been replacing the gates and putting up a heavy-duty fence up at Foshery to keep people out during unexpected closures and then off-season closures. We weren't able to open any of our group sites this year, but up at Foshery, that didn't stop people from moving our rocks, tearing down our gate, cutting our locks, cutting our chains, those kind of things. So hopefully with our new structure in place, we will see better. We'll see. All the picnic tables up at Canyon Creek, we pressure washed them and resealed them. They look beautiful. Forest Service is going to love it. So I'm like, whoa. On September 7th, U.S. Forest Service closed all developed campgrounds and dispersed camp areas in the Jackson Meadows Complex and Bowman Corridor due to the high fire danger. They also are not allowing any fires of any kind in campgrounds or dispersed. On September 9th, they did extend that closure, and then they extended it even more. As of today, we are able to open Pass Creek Campground and East Meadows Campground. The only thing is that we don't have any water now, so hopefully by Thursday we'll figure out what's going on with the water. I've talked to Cameron, so we're waiting for water treatment to get up there to see what's happening. We're hoping that the spring didn't go dry. It hasn't been dry in the last 3 years, so I don't know why it would go dry now, but we have had some vandalism up there this summer, so I'm hoping more on the vandalism side than the dry up side, so we'll see. But with the opening, the Forest Service is still not allowing any campfires at all, charcoal, wood, propane, nothing. Even within those 2 campgrounds, they are keeping all dispersed camping as a no-go, and Bowman Road and up to Foshery is closed, although, I was there on Friday, and there were a few people coming in and out, but, we didn't find any campers, so that was nice. Forest Service has been doing a lot of patrolling, so that's been really nice to help us out because, without a badge, they kind of look at us and say, hey, we'll just wait for Forest Service. And it's like, well, it's a $5,000 fine. Okay, we're packing. Nobody wants that fine. Comby Reservoir, this year, we're just mailing out their stickers. Those that have paid their dock fee, we're mailing out their stickers. And Greenhorns, they didn't jump on the bandwagon to ban fires within the campground. I've had several of their neighbors call. Greg's talked to several of their neighbors. I did speak with them, I think it was last Thursday, and I did talk to them and convince them about the positives about not allowing campfires in the campground, and I let them know that my experience with just our lower division campgrounds and not allowing fires has not been a negative one. People understand, they get it. So as of last Friday, they banned fires as well. So that was nice. Something that's not on here is we've had a couple boats that we've had issues with. We had a boat partially
pictures, those are great.
Partially sink at Rollins, and that was cost the owner $14,000 to have their boat retrieved. And then we had the one that did sink that got flat, and that one came out of the water yesterday. So, yep. Brett, do you have any questions?
I do. Back on the Comby thing.
Sure.
I remember when we had all those unauthorized encroachments, and then we sent out letters, but we haven't heard, are there people complying, or what's been the follow-up with?
We haven't really we have a plan of attack. We just got what we're waiting for is to get the encroachment piece of it all worked out, and that happened, I think, 2 board meetings ago. And so we have like all new boat slips or boat docks have to follow the new procedure. And so that's our next step, is to go into the people that have encroached on our facilities and working with them to eliminate that issue.
Didn't we send out letters to the violators telling them to remove their things?
When Gary King was here, we did, but...
Oh, no, it was
this
since
recently?
then. Yeah.
You know what, I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, I
So
haven't
I'd have to
heard
look back into
anything.
it, where we are with that letters, because we had a series of letters
Yeah,
we
we
were going to
did.
send out. I'm not sure where we are.
Because,
Yeah, I haven't heard of anything recently. I know that Gary had sent a letter out, but I don't know that, I haven't heard of anything recently, but...
Well, didn't we identify the encroachments? There's like
Yeah.
100,
Oh, yeah.
100 of them.
yeah,
And we've required them all to get permits, and that
Forward with it.
they're basically grandfathered in, and with the provision that there are no new permits being
well, and
granted.
then, and then we had a meeting, and we added some additional provisions for those docks, you know.
Yes.
Because I remember I was part of that, and
Right.
so then it was like, so now what's happened? That, it'd be nice to have a follow-up. Thanks.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Monica.
Thank you. Any public comment? Oh. Okay, so we have, name? Mike Passer? Star 6, Mike. Phone number ending in 3755.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, we can.
Good. I got skipped during the maintenance report at the end during public comment. It went by really quickly, and I guess I didn't get there in time.
Sorry about that.
I'd like to go back to that if I may.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Who was speaking before Jason? Who was the gentleman who was speaking?
Bob McDonald.
Bob McDowell?
Yeah.
Okay.
McDonald, like in Ronald.
McDonald, okay. McDonald. One of my questions is, I have just a couple things, I don't think they're huge. The Blankenship and Associates seems like a really good deal working on getting rid of the glyphosate. I would like to see them also working on the elemental copper. I have not seen where they are. You spoke about it a little bit, and you spoke about biochar, but is the algae removal with the elemental copper part of this study?
Part of this study, no. There is one that is to be in the works for next year after this to review the aquatic program, specifically copper.
Our relationship with biochar is right at its infancy. We don't know anything about the product. We are interested in it, but that's all we know.
Yeah, that was skipped during Amigos time, but shouldn't be. It seems like it's got potential. I would like to see this program start looking into copper, though. That's my request for you. There's no reason you can't do them in unison. They should be done in unison, and it will be cheaper to do it that way. The other thing I wanted to know is how many miles of ditch are currently treated for algae with elemental copper?
Do we have that information?
Because it's not the whole 450.
No.
Or 460 or
Wow, it's Mike, I don't know if we have that off the top of
Yeah,
my head.
I don't think I have that information, Mike. I apologize.
I've come up with 250 that I can tell by maps. I would appreciate an answer to that one if I could.
We can look into it, Mike.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
That is? Okay. With that being said, we will go ahead and end the Maintenance and Resource Management Committee meeting of September 22nd.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll break it.